What's up, people? Welcome back to T's Time. I'm TJ. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have a 2001 Toyota Camry. We need to get this roadworthy. To begin things, to start things off, the main issue so far, we have check engine lights. So I like to have vehicles or get vehicles, work on vehicles that are able to pass inspections. So I'm gonna start with all the codes that it has so far, or actually what it had when I got the vehicle. I ran the Scan 2. I do use a Bluetooth Scan 2 and use Torque. It's an app. You can download that. You can check the monitor of the vehicle's parameters, whatever like the computer will allow you to see. But I use that to get the codes. And then for the codes, these are all the codes that were on there present when I went for my road test. We have a P0110. And I'll go through this list real quick, or try to go as quick as I can, just so you can see or know everything that was kind of an issue with the vehicle in the past or even last present. So P0110, faulty intake air temperature / air filter, intake air temperature sensor harness or electrical connection. So those are the possibilities for that code. So all the things I'm going to read off are the possibilities of what it can be. We're going to start with the basics, and before I even do all this, I'm going to go through and make sure all the maintenance is up to date. I do have oil, fuel filter, plugs. We're gonna start the basics and make sure the vehicle is at a state where it needs to be to begin with, because a lot of this stuff could be resolved just by like maintenance. So for the next code, we have a P0115 low coolant level / thermostat coolant temperature sensor harness or connection, or the engine control management, the ECM. Next code, P0116 low engine coolant faulty coolant temperature sensor or thermostat sensor harness or bad connection. And then we have a P0171 intake air leaks, the front heated O2 sensor, ignition misfire, fuel injectors, exhaust leak, fuel PSI, lack of fuel. Those are possibilities for that. The next code, P0505 idle air control, IAC, the IAC, faulty IAC or engine control manager, the ECM. It could be either the IAC harness or connection, intake leak, PCV hose, that's vacuum leaks. Next code, P1130. This is the code that's current on this after I cleared all these codes off, and it was like a 20-mile drive with one cooldown and then startup. So this is the only current code that's on there. It's faulty airflow ratio at bank 1 sensor 1 harness, or it could be poor connection, fuel PSI / ejectors, or intake leak or engine control manager. So from reading this, oh, and also I forgot to, for that code P0171, there's also, it could be a possibility of faulty mass airflow sensor or your map sensor, incorrect positive crank ventilation, your PCV, or a hose connection. So the easy is starting from our top and working our way down. From this, looking at it, I'm going to start with the intake leak, because on the boot right here, there's tape holding that together. So I do have a new intake boot. It's cracked. We're going to start with our basics. We're going to go through, check all those for cracks, leaks, vacuum leaks, do our air filter. I'm going to go take a break and make sure I get all the maintenance stuff done before we go on to continuing this video. So the main culprit, which I think is like the main reason for this, you want your airflow ratio. So bank sensor 1, like it was picking up a lean condition. Like when I was running it was picking up a lean condition. So that could be like a clogged fuel filter, or it could be the injectors also not getting enough fuel into the combustion chamber. But we're gonna start with the easy. The easy is the intake leaks. We're gonna replace that boot. We're gonna check our air filter, our air temperature sensor, and then also the codes where it was like with the coolant stuff. That could have been just when the guy got it from me said did the timing belt and the water pump already, trying to like figure out like why I couldn't get that. So those are probably previous codes that were in there like when he was doing the work, because it picked up on the low coolant. So that could be that. So I'm not really too concerned with that, but the current one is that airflow ratio at the bank, and that's kind of probably fuel filter, because he said he changed the fuel pump, but he didn't mention anything about the fuel filter. So when they do like you're doing your maintenance, that's going to be in there, and I'm going to show you what I have for maintenance stuff. for our maintenance items. And excuse that noise, somebody's doing yard work. So I do have fuel filter in here, fuel filter, wires right there, spark plugs. Get the recommended ones for your vehicle, and for this Camry, it recommended in the book that double prong right there. So we got the double prong, 4 of those for a 4-cylinder. It's a 2.2 liter. So we have that. I got a PCV valve in this bag that goes in with the air leaks and blockages. So PCV valve could be blocked up. Thermostat with associated gaskets for that also. Belts for your power steering and your regular serpentine for your alternator. Oil, of course, we're gonna do our oil change. So I have an oil filter in there. We got our air filter right here. We're gonna get that situated. Also our transmission filter. I'm just gonna go through and change all the fluids. And then a valve covered gasket, like it's not leaking, but I just got it just to have it. So like when it does, I'll be ready. And this is the main culprit right here. This intake boot, which I believe is the main culprit. So this is flexible, pliable. You want to start with the obvious. And this is the obvious, so we're gonna get this put in and that replace it soft, ready to go. And of course all our fluids, I got transmission fluid, Dextron Merc 3 is recommended. I have windshield washer fluid, coolant, we're gonna change that, engine oil, and then to dilute the 50-50 mixture for the coolant, I got distilled water. Make sure it's distilled water, brake clean, rags. But that's all that jazz. I'm gonna get that stuff going. I'm not sure if I have, like, if it'll be previous videos that you'll see that leading up to this video of like the maintenance stuff, or it'll be after this for maintenance stuff. Not too sure, but I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna get maintenance done. I'm not gonna show, I don't think I'm gonna record like a oil change, not in this video, but like in another video, oil change or even coolant. I'll probably do the transmission, fuel filter. There'll probably be a video for that. And I also do have brake fluid, DOT3 brake fluid somewhere in there. I do have like one of those pressure where you pressurize the reservoir, you can bleed it that way. So I do need to do that also. But yeah, we got to make sure we can pass an inspection. It also needs brake pads, the indicator is squealing, rear shocks, but it still should be able to pass. But main thing, check engine light. We need to get that figured out. But let me get this maintenance stuff going and we shall continue. All right, so let's put our eyes on our intake, see how clean that is or how dirty that is. This is supposed to be up like so. Yeah, like that. But yeah, we want to address this this box down here. As you can see, that slack free play, and this that's probably supposed to be mounted. I'm not sure, I don't know, or even like something, maybe, I don't know. But I want to get this boot off just so I can see how ripped it is under this tape. 10mm clamp right there, 10mm down in there, 10mm right here that isn't even tightened. So we got a head start on that. Air intake temperature probe is right there. That was also in one of those codes. I did go to the pick and pull, and I do have a new one of those. And then also another map sensor right here. I do have a couple different ones I can put in place. But let's get this boot out and check our air filter. Yeah. All right, so this is our biggest leak, I believe, right here. They put tape around it, and I don't know if it's like a rubber seal bond they try to put in there, but like that's definitely a big leak right there. So yeah, so we got a new one that's going in. But like while we have everything out, it's a good time to inspect everything else down here. Remember where your plugs go if you unplug stuff. And then also our fuel filter is right there. We're going to replace that also. All right, we have old, new. That's the dirty side. old, new, throw this in here. It already went, I vacuumed this side there already out. If it's dirty, bunch of leaves, get that cleaned. And I just throw this back in. There's back clips it slides into. Slide in, push down, and pop your clips. Okay, it's just right there. We gotta change that fuel filter, part of our maintenance. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna bleed off the pressure. What I like to do, you can either disconnect your fuel pump or pull the fuse for the fuel injection system. And then we'll try to start it, and that should bleed off the pressure, and then we'll unbolt that, wear eye protection. You don't want fuel in your eyes. So yeah, so right now, it's also part of the diagnosis process. It's probably a good idea to just go through and check all your fuels that are related to the issue that you're going after. So if it's like airflow ratio, like your fuel, you want to check those fuses, and even like your engine control management. So it's a good idea to just check all your fuses while you're at it. So that's what I'm gonna do. And make sure you don't have your keys on. It's probably best even if you just disconnect your power. But I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna check the fuses. Like on here, you have your EFI. That's the one you want to check. ECU, we're gonna check that, the 10 amp. Now we're just gonna go through your main EFI right here, your relay. So like this, and like a good way if you want to check those relays to see if they're good, like if you have a good horn, you could swap those ones out just to check. Or even a good way to test the relay, swap that to the horn and then try the horn. So that's a good way. So let's try that. So EFI. Go through. So it's good. But let me just run through, go through and check all these fuses. If I find any are blown, you'll see me again. But if not, you won't. We'll be moving on to the next issue. So yeah. All right, so I have this temporarily installed. I put the new boot in. Clamps are on there. Right now I just want to bleed off the pressure for our fuel filter that's down there. So I just want to make sure we don't suck any dirt into our intake. So we're just going to temporarily put all of these vacuum lines and stuff back on. We don't need any additional codes or anything to pop up. So this is just temporary. We're not putting clamps or anything on these, but this is just for now. All right, 15 amp right here. That's your fuel injection. All right, this is just to help relieve some pressure. All right, so fuel filter time. That's this right here. It comes with banjo bolts. Get this out. New copper washers. This is the fuel filter right here. Bosch, that's the part number if you're interested. 2001 Camry CE 2.2. But all you got to do, we're gonna take that back off, gain access. $14 on the bottom, $17 on top. Get a little drippage. You want to throw a pan down there? So just a little overkill. I used the impact to break that 17mm banjo bolt loose on top of the fuel filter. It wasn't coming with the wrench. I just kind of couldn't get like a good grip on it, and it was missing a mounting bolt down below. It was missing that bolt. So that also was an issue because it was kind of bent in the bracket, so I just decided to remove it and try to do it floating in the air. So quick hit with the impact, it broke it loose, so we're good. So we're gonna install the new one like so, and then like so, like so. All right, and that is our fuel filter that is in. The bottom's a banjo, or the top's a banjo bolt, and the bottom's just like a compression fitting. So just replace those banjo washers before you replace that top one. And I use the impact just to get it out to make life a little easier. Next time when I do it, I'll probably do that from up top. Like before I even take that off, I'll throw the impact on and just hit that real quick, and I'll break that banjo bolt loose. And then the bottom is pretty easy. It's just kind of like a brake line fitting, pretty simple. But that's done. Finish that up, make sure you have everything on there, you didn't disconnect anything, and reassemble your air intake box. All right, so we got the intake boot back on. I went ahead and disconnected the PCV valve right here, and I just popped that out, and I blew it out with a carb cleaner, and the same with this one back here, and I blew that one out. That goes over to the map sensor. So this is the carb cleaner I use. I just sprayed it in, just make sure like that flow and was cleaned up. So both of them were after I was done. They were just dirty. So we have that on. I'm gonna start it up. We're gonna see. We changed the fuel filter. We checked our vacuum lines, the ones that were out top, the easy ones to get to. There's a couple that go to that regulator, the fuel regulator. It drops down. I'm not quite sure where those go, but let's see. All right, so the check engine light is off. Possibility with that was me disconnecting or checking fuses to make sure that they weren't blown. But then also the fuel issue with like one of the codes that was popping up with the fuel and the intake leak was kind of constant across most of these codes, if not all of them. So the intake boot being leak free now definitely probably play a part in that. And then the fuel issue could be a clogged fuel filter, so we just changed that. And then the other ones, like the old sensor, or the O2 sensor at bank 1, like that could have been also just like the lean condition, because it wasn't getting the correct fuel, or even for the map sensor being clogged with like our PCV valve system stuff. So currently no codes right now. Actually, where's my phone? Let me grab my phone and I'm gonna go through open up the app for the OBD2 scanner. All right, so connected, is reading fault codes now. Yeah, so that's doing that thing. Yeah, so if those PCV valves were clogged, the map sensor wasn't getting the information that it needed, and that's associated with your fuel trim, and make sure it gets enough fuel. So we're starting with the easy stuff, the somewhat free stuff, or the stuff that, you know, don't just start throwing parts at it. All right, so it says no fault stored in the ECU at the moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep on doing my maintenance stuff. This video might be continued. I'm gonna try to get like a test drive at least around the block or whatever, and we'll see how that goes. But right now there's no codes. Yeah, no codes, it's idling fine. I'm gonna keep doing my maintenance stuff, and then we'll continue this after I try to go around the block to see if we get like a couple heat cycles. Like, it didn't take much for it to come back on once I cleared them before, for at least that main one, the P1130, the faulty airflow ratio at bank 1 sensor. So pretty much like before when I was reading it, or intake leak, it was having like a lean condition, which most likely was just, you know, things were off with the air leaks, and the map sensor not getting what it needed. But yeah, let me continue. We're gonna see how this goes. I don't want to just call it like done, you know, until you go like for a ride around the block, actually get up to like some speed, have a constant speed on it, and then I'll give you like a better answer. I just don't want to assume it's fixed right now, because like it could be fixed for the fact that I was taking fuses out and the computer, the ECM, didn't have the power and it kind of reset itself. That's the way you could clear your codes also, is disconnecting your battery and letting it just drain itself of juice. But yeah, like it seems like the idle pretty steady, not really bouncing too much. I could throw some zip ties on those vacuum lines that I put on there. I replaced some that were loose already, so yeah. But yeah, enough chatting. Let me get going and do what I need to do, and yeah. All right, so we're back with the update. It's been about 2 months, I believe, about 2 months since I did like the repairs. Like the main issue is trying to get this check engine light to go away. So what actually solved the issue, which I was trying to put off like to the last thing, was replacing the O2 sensor, the front bank one. So I did change that, but then when I changed it out, I got a different code. I believe it was a P0420. But anyways, it was the catalytic converter. I guess it was below threshold. It wasn't as efficient as it should be. So when I changed out the O2 sensor, the front one, for actually like a good Bosch brand, like a good brand O2 sensor, because the one that was in there seemed like it probably was like an Amazon one, so that might not have been like the correct one anyway. So that, along with the intake boot being ripped, so I changed that. I changed the O2 sensor. The O2 sensor changed the check engine codes to something different, which was pretty much saying that it was the catalytic converter. So what I did to not have to like replace the catalytic converter, you should replace it if you can, but to buy yourself some time, I bought like a O2 extender to get the second O2 sensor up out of the stream of the exhaust flow, so that way it would just pretty much, it's just telling it like the catalytic converter is doing what it needs to be. So after all that's been said and done, the check engine light has been off for 2 months. That's for driving around, multiple heat cycles, driving on the highway, in town. So I just wanted to give you an update for that. Buy good quality parts. So yeah, but we're good. It's running. It passed its inspection also. So we got a pass inspection. It's running good. There's no more like surge of idle or anything like that. Yeah, it runs good. It's healthy. Doesn't burn a lot of oil, if any oil at all. Like, I haven't had to add any in the 2 months, so that's a good thing. But yeah, that's all I have for now. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little update what's going on. I was just kind of waiting to put this video out, even just to see if the check engine light was off, so I could give you a definitive answer that is actually off and what corrected the issue that I had. So changing the O2 sensor, O2 extender on the second O2 sensor after the catalytic converters, that was extended. Intake boots were replaced with one that wasn't leaking, so we didn't have those air intake leaks. And I just did general maintenance. If you're watching the previous videos, you saw like all the maintenance I was doing, like the oil change, transmission, plugs, wires, anything that I saw that the vehicle needed, just bring it up to speed, just changing like all the fluids. It was done. So that way we're ready to go. You shouldn't have to worry about it. Like, it's just oil changes, and I usually do all fluids like every 2 years on vehicles, so should be good for a while until something else breaks and something else comes up. But with vehicles, it's just a matter of time. But anyways, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. TJ.